been a minute. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy J Mad. Welcome back. This is part 2 of my series for the NHL regular season and playoffs predictions. Part 3, which will be the final part of the series, will be the actual playoff predictions. Today, we are going to be talking about the Western Conference. This is a very competitive conference, obviously, because you have a lot of competitive teams and a lot of contenders as well. But I feel like this is more the offensive conference compared to the Eastern Conference, but that doesn't mean that this conference doesn't have good goaltending either. Like, again, there's going to be really good goaltending in this conference. But today we're going to start off with the Central Division. This is a division that has quite a few teams that are still in rebuild mode, but also teams that are also like wanting to contend and also like maybe like playoff contenders, and one of them maybe like a Stanley Cup contender. Again, we'll go into more detail. For 8th place, last place in the division, in the Central Division, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, no surprise really, because this is a team that is in full rebuild mode right now. They have obviously the number 1 overall pick from a few years ago in Connor Bedard. He is going to be amazing. He's going to be the next big thing. I promise you. He's going to be awesome. Chicago has a great star on their hands. They still have some solid players too, like Nick Foligno, Tyler Bertuzzi, Ryan Donato, Peter Mrazek. He's a decent goaltender. I could see him being traded at the deadline potentially, but we'll see. But they actually have decent coaching in Luke Richardson. He is really good. I think he's the right coach for Connor Bedard. But if he's the right coach moving forward when they start contending, we'll see. But right now, I do see them finishing last and, again, possibly tanking for the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. Moving on to 7th place in the division, I do have the St. Louis Blues. This is a team that actually was just in the news recently. They fired their recently new hired head coach in Drew Bannister and hired newly fired head coach from the Boston Bruins, Jim Montgomery. I will go into more detail on that in a video very soon after this series, but again, it was a shocking move. I didn't see it coming, but here we are. I still have them finishing near the bottom of the division, though, unfortunately, because this is a team that, again, is going to be rebuilding very soon. Jordan Binnington is not the same goaltender that he once was. They still have some solid players in Jordan Kyrou, Pavel Buchnevich, Colm Parayko, Philip Broberg. They have solid pieces. It's just not clicking for them, unfortunately. They're getting older, and unfortunately, this team is just heading backwards. I do see them going into a full rebuild mode towards the end of the season and possibly trading off some key pieces. But again, they do miss out on the playoffs, and unfortunately, this is, again, the start of the rebuild for them. Moving on to 6th place in the division with actually a very surprising up-and-coming team, I do have the Utah Hockey Club, or a lot of people are going to start calling them
the Utah Yetis.
But this is a team that, again, like I said, is on the up and rise. This is a very young team, a very fast team. They have really good players like Clayton Keller, Gunther Cooley, Sergachev. I mean, their goaltending is okay. Ingram is okay, but I don't see them being like the quote-unquote goaltenders of the future for them. But this is still a team that is actually on the up and rise. They could potentially fight for a playoff spot this year, but I don't see it happening. But they are still really good. They're coaching Andre Torgany, I believe that's how his name is pronounced. Don't judge me. Is still a good coach. Like, he's actually clicking some really good buttons right now for that team. Their chemistry is building right now, which is awesome. But I still see them missing out on the playoffs. Again, they're going to be competitive here within the next year or so because, again, this team is very fast. They are up and coming, and NHL, watch out for them. They're going to be really good really soon. Moving on to 5th place in the division and barely just missing out on the playoffs, I have the Nashville Predators. This is a team that a lot of people thought they were going to contend this year because they added a lot of big pieces in the offseason. They added pieces like Stamkos, Marchessault. They re-signed Saros, the really good goaltender. This is a team that a lot of people thought they would be really competitive with the pieces that they added. But unfortunately, it's just not clicking right now. I don't get it. They're not building the chemistry, which is so weird. You would think with all this offensive star power, with not just the names I just mentioned, but also players like Forsberg, Yossi, O'Reilly, you would think this team is stacked, and it is technically. They don't have the chemistry. They don't have the teamwork. They don't have it yet. This is why I think they'll make a late push for a playoff spot maybe towards the end of the season, but I still see them missing out on it barely. This is a team that I think that can be competitive, but unfortunately it's just not. They have good coaching, Andrew Burnett. I just don't think he's clicking the right buttons just yet. Hopefully they'll figure it out soon, because I actually like this team a lot. This is a really competitive team and a really fun team to watch. But unfortunately, I do have them missing out on the playoffs. Moving on to the top four in the division, and with my fourth place team, and also making the wild card in the Western Conference, I do have the Colorado Avalanche. There's no surprise here as far as when it comes to the star talent. They got Nathan McKinnon, McCarr, they got Rantanen, they got Casey Middlestat. This team is stacked when it comes offensive. Like, they just got players, Val Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen. They just came back from injury. This team is still stacked. If they can stay healthy as far as offensively and defensively, this team is still really good. Their goaltending, though, is very sus, unfortunately, because this team, goaltending wise, Georgiev, you're not it, dude. Like, I'm sorry to say, like, you're just not it. Like, you're not the goaltender that they need. I do see them potentially trying to, maybe like in the offseason, try to trade or sign a goaltender that is better, but unfortunately their goaltending is just not it. It's just not it. Justus Osanen is actually decent. He's very young though, so he's still got a lot of time to develop, but unfortunately this team is just not ready as far as when it comes to goaltending. The coaching, Jared Bednar, he's one of the best coaches in the NHL. He obviously knows how to press the buttons right with his offense and defensive lineups, but again, goaltending is just not there for them. I do see the offense and defense carrying them all the way to a wild card and just making the playoffs. This is a team that, again, can surprise potentially if their goaltending can stay up to par, but right now, we'll see what happens later on in the next video with them. But right now, I do have them making the wild card. Moving on to third place in the division, and a surprising team. I didn't think this team would be so high up on my predictions list, but here we are, because they're actually off to a really good start to the season. I do have the Minnesota Wild. This is a team that is stacked when it comes to offense. You got Kirill Kaprizov, an MVP candidate, and probably the favorite at this point. You got Matt Boldy, Matt Zuccarello, Marco Rossi, defenseman, Faber, you got Joel Eriksson Ek, Gustafsson, the goaltender. He's actually been really, really good, which is shocking. But this team, I don't get it. They're clicking the right numbers. Coach John Hines actually been coaching them really well. This is a team that is really, really good all of a sudden, and I like it. I actually like the Minnesota Wild. They're a really fun team to watch as well. Again, Kirill Kaprizov is unbelievable. This team, though, is going to be potentially competitive in this year's playoffs. I can see them maybe winning a round or two, who knows? But right now, they are staying competitive if they can stay healthy, and if the goaltending can hold up, I think this is a team to watch out for as far as potentially being a dark horse for the Cup. This is a team that can be really, really good. But we'll see. We'll find out. Moving on to second place in the division, I do have the Dallas Stars. I do see them, like, getting out of the slump that they're in right now. Like, they're playing okay hockey, but I do see them playing better hockey, obviously, towards the middle and end of the season. This is a team that is just stacked when it comes to depth. They got players like Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, Logan Stankoven, Tyler Seguin, Rope Hintz, Jason Robertson, Jake Onger, you name it. This team is just stacked when it comes to both offense, defense, and goaltending. Overall, they're just solid. This is a team that I think is going to be a cup contender as well. This is a team that I think is going to be very competitive. Coach Peter DeBoer is actually, again, he's probably one of the better coaches in the NHL as well. But he also has this track record of, unfortunately, choking. This is a team that I think that can win a round or two, but they haven't gotten over that hump as far as going back to the Stanley Cup final. They went to the Cup final back in 2020, but this team hasn't gone back there since. Again, who knows? This team is going to be very competitive. They can be very, very, very good, but unfortunately, I do see them not finishing with the Central Division crown, but they're still going to make the playoffs and potentially going to be really, really good. Moving on to my Central Division winner and first place in the division, I do have the Winnipeg Jets. I also see them actually winning the President's Trophy. What the President's Trophy is, that is the best overall record in the NHL, both Eastern and Western Conference. This team is just stacked. Their chemistry is unbelievable. They got players like Connor, Scheifele, Ellers, Morrissey, Lowry, Hellebuck. Hellebuck is probably one of the best goaltenders in the NHL right now. I could see them going really far in this year's playoffs. This is a team that is just stacked. If they can stay healthy, if they can continue this momentum that they had to start the season, I could see them going very, very far. First year coach Scott Arnold is actually doing really well. I'm surprised. He's going to be a coach of the year candidate for sure. He's clicking the right buttons for this team. He's making sure that the teamwork is just hard, fast, and competitive, and it's unbelievable. Like, this team has actually surprised a lot of people as far as how good they are, and including myself. But I think this team is going to be very, very good for years to come, especially with the overall depth that they have. They have more players like Velarde, Iafallo, again, my boys that they used to be on my favorite team, but this team is still really, really good. And I think that, again, they potentially could go to the final. They are a cup contender for sure, and the window has just flung open all of a sudden, and I do see them winning the division in the Central Division this year. That is it for the Central Division. Now we are going to move on to the Pacific Division. This is probably one of the more competitive divisions when it comes to overall brute force. Like, this is a very physical division. Like, a lot of these teams do not like each other. This is a division that is going to be very competitive and very physical. We'll see where the top of the division goes, because that's going to be the most competitive, but we'll see. But I'm going to start off with, again, last place in the division, the San Jose Sharks. Again, this is another team that is just like Chicago. They're in that rebuild mode. They are in that mode where they're not going to be competitive for a few more years. And again, they just won the overall pick in this year's draft, selected Macklin Celebrini. This kid is going to be another really good prospect. He's going to be really, really good. Could he be on a Connor Bedard level? Maybe. We'll see. But they also have other players like Will Smith, Mikhail Granlund, Tyler Toffoli, one of my favorite players, former King, obviously, William Eklund. Like, this team is stacked when it comes to overall forwards and, again, star power in the near future. But defense and goaltending is just not there. They have nothing, zip, nada. Askarov is a good prospect for them as far as when it comes to goaltending. He could be the goaltender of the future for them. Who knows? I think he'll need another 2 or 3 years of development, but we'll see. You never know. Coach Ryan Rafalski is actually really good. I do see him sticking around for quite a while. This is a team, like I said, again, this is they're going to tank a lot for the next few years to come, but they have a bright future. They have a really good future. I hate to say it, but the Sharks are going to be really good. I would say maybe in a handful of years, but we'll see. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks. They are 7th place in the division. This team is just, they're in a weird flux right now. Like, Zegras is on rumors right now as far as for the trade rumor. Like, he used to be the shining prospect for this team, and unfortunately now there's tons of rumors that he could be traded. I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded or not, but we'll see. They still have really good players like Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Carlson, Vetrano, Luke Dostal. He's going to be the goaltender of the future. He looks really good, I promise you. Like, watch out for that name. But this team, again, is also going to be tanking for a few more years. Coach Greg Cronin, I don't see him sticking around when they become a contender, but right now he is the right coach for them at this moment. As far as, again, like, he's just trying to make sure that the young talent is being developed, and that is the mission right now. So hopefully this team can continue towards that. I hope not, because obviously I don't like them. But for the NHL's sake, I hope they obviously develop really well, because they actually have rebranded their new logo. Overall, they look really good with the new logo, new team. I think this team, again, a few more years of tanking, but they could be competitive in a handful of years or so. Moving on to 6th place in the division, surprisingly, I have the Seattle Kraken. I thought this team would be more competitive. I thought they would be fighting for a wild card spot, but unfortunately, they just hadn't have that start to the season to convince me otherwise. This is a team that, again, actually has some really good talent. They got Jordan Eberle, Jared McCann, Brandon Montour. Joey Decord is starting to step up as far as being that starting goaltender for them. But as far as defense-wise, they don't have it yet. That defense is just not good. Vince Dunn is okay, but that defense is just not there, unfortunately. First-year head coach Dan Bisma is actually really good. He's a really good coach. I do like him. He could be the coach to get them back to the playoffs potentially, just not this year. This team is, unfortunately, defensive wise, is just not there. They don't have overall good depth either, but again, this team, I think, could be good for years to come. They have a really good young forward in Matty Beniers. He's going to be really good. but I think this team, unfortunately, is just not that good. I just don't think they're going to be able to climb out of the hole that they kind of dug themselves in with the start to the season. But I wouldn't be surprised either if they maybe like try to fight for a playoff spot potentially. But unfortunately, it's just not going to be this year. I do hope they have success for years to come. I do like this franchise, watching them sometimes, but unfortunately, I just don't think they're going to have it this year. Moving on to 5th place in the divisions, and this is a surprising one. I have the Calgary Flames. I expected them more towards the bottom of the division. I still have them missing out barely on the playoffs, but they're actually being very competitive to start the season. They're actually doing really good. They have players like Anderson, Huberdeau, Kadri. They have Dustin Wolf, another promising goaltender, who I think is going to be a goaltender of the future for them. So watch out for that name. But right now, they are being very competitive. They could fight for a wild card spot, but I do see them barely missing out on the wild card spot this year. Again, they are actually turning some heads. Coach Ryan Huska is actually doing really good. He's clicking the right buttons right now at this point. He's doing really, really well with this team. I just don't think they're going to get over the hump and get a wild card spot, unfortunately. Like right now, they're being very competitive right now, but I just don't see it happening with them. But they are turning heads, and maybe in a year or so, they could be a playoff team, but who knows? Moving on to 4th place in the division, Western Conference wildcard spot, I do have the Edmonton Oilers. Ooh, I do not like this team. So the Edmonton Oilers, yes. Me personally, as a Kings fan, I do not like the Edmonton Oilers. They've knocked us out of the last few playoff rounds, the last few years. But they are still obviously very competitive, very good. I'll give credit where credit is due. They are obviously the defending Western Conference champions. They got players like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard. This team is stacked when it comes to overall forwards. Defense is okay. I do think their defense is actually okay. It's the goaltending that I really just... This is how much they make me cringe. Like, again, they remind me a lot of the Colorado Avalanche, actually. They're very similar. They have really good star power when it comes to forwards. They have okay defense. But their goaltending is just atrocious. I don't see why people think Stuart Skinner is the goaltender of the here and now and of the future for the Edmonton Oilers. This guy is not good. He is overrated. If I'm going on a rant, I apologize, but it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing how this team is just getting so many good raves and so many, positive, reviews, because, yes, they are competitive, but they are not a cup contender. You gotta realize this, NHL. Yeah, you want them so bad to be competitive because you want a cup back in Canada. Sure, I get it. But you gotta realize, that's not the team. The Winnipeg Jets are your Canadian team now. They are gonna be really good. But the Oilers are not that team anymore. Yes, they make a playoff spot. Yes, they're going to be competitive. Yes, maybe they could upset in a round or two. Maybe. But this is not the year. I don't see them winning the cup because of one name, and one name in particular, Stuart Skinner. You are not good, dude. I apologize. I know you're probably a really good human being, but, dude, you're just not it. You're just not it, okay? Just give me a minute. Sorry, again, this team just frustrates me, like I said, because I'm a Kings fan. But again, I will give credit where credit is due. This team is going to be competitive. Like I said, they're going to win potentially a round or two. Maybe, we'll see. But I just don't think they're the cup contender that a lot of people say. Moving on to my top 3 in the division. In 3rd place, I do have the Los Angeles Kings, my boys. Let's go. I do see them finishing in 3rd place in the division. This is a team that did fix a few problems as far as physicality. We did add a little bit of physicality, which I like. I'm liking that we added the brute force. Unfortunately, this is a team that did lose out on some key pieces as far as when it comes to scoring. Defense, we did lose Drew Dyer to injury, but he should be back here within a month or so. We'll see. But this team is still going to be really competitive. They still got Kopitar. They still got Clark. They still got Kempe. Alex Laferriere is starting to step up. The kid is doing really good. Kevin Fiala, he's in a little bit of a rut right now, but he'll figure it out. But we also have a decent goaltender in Darcy Kemper. He is injured right now, but I do see him stepping it up a little bit and trying to fight for a playoff spot for us. Coach Jim Hiller, he's actually doing okay right now. I don't think he's the coach for us in the future as far as when we are going to be more competitive and more of a cup contender. But I do see us making the playoffs. I do see us being more competitive this year. Do we win a round finally? Maybe. Who knows? I'm hoping so, but we'll see. But yes, I do have my favorite team, the Los Angeles Kings, finishing third place in the division. This is not favoritism. This is not bias. I promise you, if this was bias and favoritism, I would have them win the cup. But we all know for a fact I'm not going to win the cup. That is just my opinion. You'll find out later on in the next video. But right now, I do have them finishing third place in the Pacific Division. Moving on to second place in the division, I do have the Vancouver Canucks. This is a team that is stacked with forwards. They got Besser, Miller, Pedersen, Garland. Defense, they obviously have star defenseman Quinn Hughes. He's going to be defenseman of the here and now and of the future. He's awesome. Thatcher Demko is injured right now, but he's really good goaltender for them, and once he gets healthy, I think he'll be consistent for them, and if he stays healthy, this team is going to skyrocket. This team is going to be really, really good. Coach Rick Tocchet is actually one of the better coaches of the NHL. He's probably one of a Coach of the Year candidate potentially. But right now, I do have them finishing second place in the division. They could win a round or two. I don't have them as a cup contender, in my opinion. They will be in the playoffs for sure. I just have them finishing second place in the division. Moving on to first place in the division and winning the Pacific Division crown, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. Another team I really can't despise as a Kings fan, but I can't deny the talent. I can't deny how much they're fun to watch. This is a team that is stacked. They got players like Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, Ivan Barbashev, Petrangelo, Hurdle, Theodore. Aiden Hill's a decent goaltender. This team is stacked. It is stacked, both offense and defense and goaltending. This overall team is just really, really good. They are obviously going to win the division. They are obviously going to be a cup contender this year. Coach Bruce Cassidy is, again, one of the best coaches in the NHL, a Coach of the Year candidate for sure. I can't really, say if they're going to win the cup this year. Again, they could be a dark horse for sure. I hope they don't because, again, I can't despise them. But if they win the cup, congratulations to them. But again, this is a cup contender. This is a really good team. They have a really, really just overall, solid forward depth, defensive depth team. And I just think that this team is going to be competitive for not just now, but for years to come, obviously. This is a team that is going to be crazy good this year. And that is it for part 2 of my predictions. My next video, which will be part 3, which will be my playoff predictions. Stay tuned for that. That is going to be a very good video. It's going to be very exciting. I will be breaking down all the matchups, all the games, how the playoffs are going to be turned out, and who will be the cup winner this year, in my opinion. Who knows? But thank you so much for tuning into this video. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, stay safe, be good, have a happy Thanksgiving. It is almost Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have some really good time with friends, family, whatnot. Grub down some turkey. And again, after this week, I'll be posting a lot more, I promise. But once the holidays get closer, I will take a break with family, just to spend time with them, with friends as well. And yeah, I hope you guys have a really good holiday season, and I'll see you guys real soon. Let's go!